Hi y'all, my name is JC Foster, and I just really feel the need and feel led by the Lord to share my husband and I's story about trying to get pregnant. So just a heads up, this video will go into detail and we'll talk about a miscarriage. So if that's something that is too hard for you to listen to, I would highly suggest that you just go ahead and skip this. So just to start off, sorry, my dog isn't here, and if you hear pounding, that's my husband working downstairs on our basement that flooded. But just to start off, my husband and I started trying in July of 2019, and it's just something that we were super excited about, more me than him, but he was a little scared. I mean, we're both scared, but we were both super excited about it. And sorry, my dog isn't here if you can see him. This is Asher. But we were just really excited about it. And so we started trying in July, and it wasn't really something that we thought would happen as fast as it did, but we got pregnant, and I found out in September, and well, I guess end of August, I found out. And then going into it, I had a plan of how to tell him. I was super excited. I was like, I'm going to tell him in this big way. But when I took the pregnancy test, I literally started bawling, and I was just so overwhelmed with excitement and with joy. And he was outside, and so I just ran outside with the pregnancy test in my hand, and I was like crying. And of course he's like, this is a joke. And I was like, no, like it's not a joke. And I showed it to him, and he didn't believe me, so he was like, you can take it again. And so I took one again, positive. Take it again, took it again, it was positive. And it was just very surprising for the both of us that it happened so fast. And I think both of us just didn't really think that it would happen that fast. I didn't really know that much about what goes into getting pregnant, and either did he. We just thought that it would just, happen, and it did. But then on September 6th, I was at work, and I started spotting a little bit, which I had read about implantation bleeding, but I was like, well, I'm already pregnant, so why am I bleeding? And so I ended up calling one of my friends who has already had babies, and I just kind of asked her if she bled when she was pregnant, and she was like, no, but she knew someone who did, and she's like, I would ask her. And so I ended up asking the other gal, and the other gal was like, no, I don't remember bleeding. And so I just started to get really nervous, and then I started having really severe cramping, and I was bleeding a lot. And at that point, I kind of knew, this is not right. I don't feel right. I don't feel this is too much bleeding. And so thankfully my mom is a doctor, and so I ended up going to her office to see the other physician that works there, and just kind of told her what was going on. They had me just do some tests, and she ended up coming in the room with me and my husband in there and ended up telling us that I was no longer pregnant. And that's just something it was really hard to hear. It was almost as if I don't know, I was in a dream. It was just like in the movies, where you black everything out and you no longer hear what they're saying, and you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And that's what it was like. And so it was very devastating. I didn't feel as if I really could get up and do anything. I was really sad. I was really heartbroken. I was really early on, so it just the miscarriage just passed through me. But leading up to that, it didn't make it any easier, because I was still pregnant, and it was really tough. I remember coming home. I didn't go back to work. I came home and laid in my bed in a ball and did not want to get up. And there was 3 people who called me who, in these situations, I would usually answer to, but I didn't. And I wasn't ready to talk. I wasn't ready. It was just one of my best friends, my mentor, my mom, and they were calling me what's going on? Are you okay? Because I had texted them I was going to the doctor. Something's not right. My mom actually wasn't in the office. She was gone doing a tour of another office of a med spa or something for her work, but she wasn't in the office, so she wasn't there, so she didn't know what was going on. And I just remember texting her like I was coming in, and so she was where I was coming in the middle of the day, like she's, what's going on? Like, why are you coming in? And so she's trying to call me, my friends are trying to call me, and I'm not answering. And I remembered in the moment that my sister had gone through miscarriage, and my sister and I have a weird relationship to whereas like we just don't really talk about this stuff, and this isn't really something that we would share with each other in the moment, maybe later on, but in the moment we're not the people that we would go to. We have our people that we would go to, which is fine. That's what I love about our relationship. But I remember that my sister had gone through this, and so I texted her and just told her. And she didn't know I was pregnant, and so I texted her and told her, and she called me immediately, and I answered. And it was just such a cool thing for our relationship and just for our friendship, because she was the person I answered to, and she said everything that I think I like needed to hear in that moment. And she was so positive with me and just pointing me back to the Lord and sharing things about positivity about I did get pregnant. And, you know, for some women, that's not always the case. And I think the biggest thing with going through a miscarriage is it's opened my eyes so much to women trying to get pregnant, women who can't get pregnant, women who do get pregnant right away, just how big of a blessing truly getting pregnant is. And just what a miracle babies are, because it's not easy, and it's easy for some people, which is great and it's amazing. But for some women, it's not that easy. And I think for me, like my eyes and my heart were just so open and softened to women and women who are trying to have a baby and who struggle with having a baby, because since my miscarriage, we've struggled to get pregnant, and it's been really hard. I've had a lot of bleeding. I've had things, and this is just too much information to be sharing, but behind all of this, the Lord has been so loving throughout all of this, and man, like has he just shown himself throughout all of this, and pretty quickly. And I think that it just needs to be talked about. I think that miscarriages aren't talked about that often. And so really, I guess to anybody who could be possibly watching this, who has gone through this in the past recently, or maybe who hasn't gone through one yet, hopefully I don't pray this or wish this upon anybody, because it's hard and it's difficult, but it is a lot more common than people realize and that people talk about. And so I guess I just really want to make this video to glorify the Lord and to show how he's helped me throughout this process and how he's shown himself throughout this process. So I will just start with where I first saw him, which was with my sister. And that's what I've already shared. But that was the first time I really saw him move and love on me in a way that I didn't expect. And that's something that we'll talk about, is he's been moving in ways that have been so unexpected, which is where I believe and think that he loves to work, is in the unlikely situations and in the unexpected. So that was the first way. And then I went into I'm a photographer on the side, and I went to this women's gathering / photography thing with one of my mentor, Maddie Schultz, who's also an amazing photographer. But her and a girl named Sid Mo put on this huge women's just gathering, and Sid's an artist who does calligraphy and watercolor paintings and portraits, and so talented. And then Maddie, on the other hand, is the photographer. So they come together and they bring in women who love the Lord or who desire to know the Lord and who love photography or art, and they bring in these gals. And this year they took it to Lake Tahoe. And so we went there, and this was very quickly after my miscarriage. And I was at the airport, and I remember they were like asking for people to not go because they had overbooked the flight, whatever. And I was texting my husband, like, I just don't really think I'm up for this. Like, I don't think I'm ready to be around other women. And there was just, the enemy was so hard to come after me and to steal, kill, and destroy. And he was just putting plants and seeds in my head of, you don't want to go, you don't want to do that, you're not ready. But then on the other hand, the Lord was like, no, just wait it out, just go. You're going to be fine, you're going to make it, go. And so I went, and I remember going, and I was so closed off, and it was really crazy because I really thought that we were going to go and we were going to walk all over and we were going to explore and take pictures all the time, and which we did. But I would say 90% of the time we spent quiet time with the Lord. And my gosh, how much I needed that. And so it was just right then and there, him showing himself to me and showing that in that moment, they all were doing quiet time. And so I was almost like, man, okay, we're doing quiet time, so I'm gonna spend quiet time with the Lord. If I would have stayed home, I would have never done that. And that right there drew me closer to him and called me. He was just calling me closer to him. Like, the biggest thing that I felt throughout all of this is that my heartache is his heartbreak. And he was sad too. And I did not think that he was. I was just kind of like, yes, I know he has a plan. Yes, I know he's good. And I know that things happen, and sometimes they aren't always in our control. But man, like, I never thought that, yes, I knew he would like hurt, but I didn't think he hurt as deeply as I did. And I didn't think that was possible, but he was. And so it was just so cool to know and feel him being so close to me and calling me out to him so quickly. And so the biggest takeaway from this trip was we went on this hike, and I used to play softball, Division I softball player, and was in the best shape of my life when I played. And I played this last year. Like, I just graduated in May. And so, we're going on this hike, not a long hike, not a hard hike. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Like, I was in the best shape of my life. I got this. We're going on this hike, and we are halfway there, and I am dying. I'm like huffing and puffing. And there's another girl and whatever girls with me who are struggling as well. And so we stop, and there's like this little tiny lookout of just like trees. And we were like, oh, like, this is good enough. Like, this is pretty enough. Let's just stop here. And in that moment, it was just not, I didn't see it yet, but all of us girls were like, you know what? No, like, let's keep going. We've got this. We can get there. Let's do it. Let's push on. And so we were encouraging each other as we were going up this mountain. We're like, we got it. We're almost there. Whatever. We were being really dramatic, but what's new? So we get to the top, and the top is just this huge Lake Nevada and trees and mountains on the side, and it was breathtaking. It was so beautiful, and like literally almost brought tears to my eyes, because in that moment, it was such a moment of the Lord coming to me and being like, this is such an image for you about me and your relationship, and really anybody else. You almost stopped at what was good enough, but you pushed on, and now you're seeing what I really have for you, which is more than I would have ever imagined, more beautiful than I would have ever imagined. And so in that moment, one, seeing his creation, but two, hearing him speak that to me and say, this is what our relationship is going to be like. Like, there's going to be times where you're tempted to stop, and you're tempted to be comfortable and content with what you have and what's good enough. But if you continue to push on and continue to seek me, you're going to see that I have so much more for you. My husband's coming in. So sorry, my husband came in. But anyways, I don't really know where I left off, but I don't want this to be like a long video. So I'll just kind of get to the point, which is Jesus. So that experience and that time on the mountain was just something that was so eye-opening for me. And just knowing that if I stop and I'm content with my life and me being in control, then it will just always be okay, or it will just be good enough. But it was very clear to me that he was calling me out to seek him because he has more for me and he wants more for me. And so that was very eye-opening to me. And was just kind of an awaken to my heart of, where is my heart? Where is my relationship with Jesus? Just kind of where I wanted it to go. And I knew that my heart longed for more of him and wanted more of him. And so that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to get to know him more and on a deeper level. And I wanted pregnancy and a baby to be his timing and to be his plan. I didn't want it to be my will. I wanted it to be his. And so it was just really cool to have that experience of knowing that he has more for me and he wants to give me more. And he wants to give you more. And so just later on, we continued to try. We continued to pray about it. And it was still a learning process. And to this day, it's a learning process. But just kind of fast forward, there's been things that the Lord has done and shown me. And he showed me his promises with his word, with images that he's given me, with words from other people that he's given me. There has just been this consistency of him showing me that he's faithful and that he's good and that he has a promise for me and my husband and for our lives and for our child's life. And he's shown me that he has that promise for us. And unlike anybody else, he doesn't break his promises. And so as I continued to dive deeper with him, there was a verse that just came across me that I began to speak over myself, because the enemy would use things like, oh, you're never going to get pregnant again, and you wanted to be a mom your whole life, but it's not going to happen. Like, he would use things like that, and he would just use it over and over. Like, he's not creative, but he would use the things that he know would hurt me and worry me and brought fear to me, and he would just use them over and over and over. And I came across Hebrews 6:14, which is, surely I will bless you, surely I will multiply you. And the second I read that, I wrote it down and I put it up in my bathroom wall. I got a picture, like a calligraphy picture thing of it done. It's just been something I speak over myself, because it is the Lord's word, and it is true, and it is good news, and it is a promise, and it's a promise that he's going to keep. And whether or not that's right now or later or whenever it is, it's a promise that he will keep and he will not break. And so I just continued to speak that over myself whenever the enemy came in and was attacking me with things like, you're not going to get pregnant, your body's not capable of keeping a baby or of carrying a baby. And that was things that he used against me, because my body was showing me signs that it's not a good home for a baby. And I had to go and get ultrasounds done, and I was told that my uterus is super thin, and I was told to go back on birth control for 2 months, and by a doctor, obviously, whom I respect, and she was just giving me her very knowledgeable opinion, which I highly respected, and there was nothing wrong with her opinion or with her suggestion. And I even went on birth control for 3 days. But it was just something that my relationship with the Lord has become so strong throughout this, and I've become so, like, my eyes are so locked on his promise and are so locked on his plan. They're not locked on mine. They're not locked on somebody else's. And I remember I was reading after I had been told to go back on birth control, and I was reading on my Advent book. And so it was talking about, there was like 3 different keys that I had just felt not very much peace about taking birth control. And it wasn't that my flesh didn't want to take it, because I want my uterus to be a good home for a baby. I want it to be a strong home for a baby. So it wasn't that I didn't want to take the birth control. Obviously, it was taking steps backwards. I had to be on it for 2 months. And so I knew that was 2 months that me and my husband weren't going to be able to try for a baby. But something that the Lord was just not giving me peace about it. And I think that alone was enough for me to seek him about it and to pray about it. And to just kind of ask him, Lord, is this something that you have for me? Is this something that you want to be a part of this story? And there was just very clear answers that it wasn't. And as I was reading through my Advent book, it was one of the things was just talking about there is a will of man, there is a will of flesh, and then there is a will of God. And it was just talking about these 3 different wills. And then at the end of it, it was asking you, like, in your situation right now, is your will of man, is your will of flesh, or is your will of God? And I just felt like my will is of man, because I'm being told by this very highly educated doctor. Again, there's nothing wrong with this. This was just something the Lord was putting on my heart. It was just this whole experience and journey has really had me fall to my knees, which has made my eyes open. First of all, no, I shouldn't just fall to my knees when things are hard. I should fall to my knees every day about things that are going on and wanting to live my life for Him in a way that is for Him every single day, not just when I choose. And I don't just glorify Him when I choose, but every single day, and seek Him every single day. And so just when I was praying and when I was reading about it, I just really felt that being on birth control was so just not what the Lord is calling, and it was just not something that I felt He was wanting me to do. And so when I was praying about it, it was just very clear that it was just brought to me that, He can heal a thin uterus. And yes, medicine can do that too, and I'm so thankful for medicine. I'm so thankful for doctors. But within my journey that's going on right now, and within Him calling me to trust Him fully and have faith in Him fully, I didn't feel that I was. And so I stopped taking the birth control. And when I was on the birth control, I was in so much pain. I was bleeding more than I had been. There was just so many different signs that I knew it wasn't right. And the next day that I stopped taking my birth control and I stepped out in full faith for the Lord and trusting and having faith that He alone is so good and wants to heal my uterus, and He alone can do that. And yes, medicine can do that as well, but He can do it too. And I wanted to step out on full faith and trust that He was going to heal my uterus, or if I am to get pregnant in a thin uterus, to know that that's a part of His plan. And yes, that's scary and it's not a safe home for a baby, but if the Lord is to provide a baby for me with a thin uterus, I'm going to trust and know that He's going to provide that home's going to be healthy for that baby, because it's going to be His home for that baby and it's going to be His timing. And so I stepped down in full faith and I stopped taking the birth control. And the very next day, I felt so close to the Lord and I felt so much peace. And I just felt in awe of Him, and my stomach wasn't cramping, it wasn't hurting. And to this day, I haven't bled since. And so it's just an amazing thing that He's doing, and He's healing because we're praying and asking Him to. And He's got this promise for me that He's not going to break. So another thing that I wanted to share about this and just about what the Lord has done with His promises is He's giving me this image. He's given it to me 5 times now, but the first time it's always been in like 2 lines, and it's been a number 11. It's been 2 sticks. It's been 2 positive pregnancy test lines, but the past 3 times it's been positive pregnancy test lines. But every single time it's been in the shape of the 2 lines, but it's just been different lines or sticks or whatever. But the last 3 times it's been positive pregnancy test lines. And the Lord has given me these images while I'm praying. And the last time it was given to me was the most clear image that I've gotten from Him. I have been praying about it. I have been just kind of wondering, like, I've never had something like this happen to me. And so I've asked other people about it. But I've really been praying about it and just like, man, Lord, would you just give me clarity with the image? Would it just be something that is so clear that I understand what you're showing me? And I just continue to pray about it. And the last time that He gave me the image, I was showering and I was listening to Christian music, and the song No Fear by Lainey Renee, I think is how you say the last part, came on. And it was the first time I had it downloaded into my Apple Music or whatever, and I hadn't really listened to it yet, but it was just a song. And usually when I download a song, I listen to it right away, but I hadn't listened to that one yet. And I don't know why, but for some reason that song came on and my ears were just, it was so evident that this was the song I was supposed to listen to. It was so loud and clear that this is the song that I just needed to listen to. And so as I'm praying, the song is coming on, and it's very clear that the part, and it's talking about how when your eyes are set on him, you have no fear and you have nothing to be afraid of. And that was exactly what I had felt and was going through. I had started to become afraid of, okay, Lord, like we're going on month six of trying. Like, this is when you probably have to go start seeing the doctors. And I had seen the doctors, and it was just something that I had gotten this image, and I was holding a test stick, and there's 2 positive lines, and there's a little baby girl behind the stick. So I'm holding the stick like this, and then right out here is this little baby girl, and I knew her, and it was just this, it really felt like a dream. Like, I felt like I was dreaming this, and as I'm praying, like, it was just so surreal. It was just like this perfect image of this little baby girl, and I knew her well, and I loved her well. And I could just hear like Hattie and Hadley being said over and over. And that's a name that Jake and I have talked about for little girls, Hadley Ray. And so I could just hear that name being said as I'm looking at this little girl, and this positive test stick is in my hand. And so I like immediately am like, what the heck is going on? Like, I've never had something like this happen to me before. And so I'm writing it down, and I have every single date written down that something has happened. And October 4th was the first time, then October 12th, then October 17th, then December 2nd, and December 9th. And so those are the dates that he has shown me, those images of the 2 positive lines, or the test sticks, or the sticks, or whatever. And so it's just something that I'm writing down and I want to share, because as of right now, I'm not pregnant. As of right now, this promise hasn't been shown to me or hasn't been given to me, but I know it will. And I want this story to be shared because it's a story that he's writing, and it's so amazing to live it out and to have it be me that he's writing this story for, and the baby that he has for my husband and I, that he's showing me these promises, and that he's showing me how good he is. And so really what this video I'm hoping will do is just give somebody hope, because in such a dark season, probably the darkest season I've ever gone through in my life, the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life, the Lord was so close and so near and so evident. And I truly don't think I would have known that if I didn't take quiet time with him, and if I didn't take a second to open my heart and open my eyes and open my ears to him to hear what he was saying to me. Because it's so easy in dark seasons to close your mind off to him and to close your heart off to him. But man, I just really hope this gives somebody hope to know that you're not alone. And it's hard, and you definitely have to take it day by day. But man, the Lord is so near to you, and he loves you, and he feels your hurt. He feels your pain. He's hurting with you. He's crying with you. It's not something that really anybody wants to ever go through, and it's not something that he ever wants somebody to go through. But just know that he loves you so much, and he, like Hebrews 6:14 says, surely I will bless you, and surely I will multiply you. He's not saying, okay, I might bless you and I might multiply you, but it depends. No, he's saying he will. And when he says he will, he will. And I think the coolest thing since then that I've realized is, if it's his will, he will. And I think that's what I've just had to set my mind on and my heart on, is because trying to get pregnant and struggling with it is really hard. And it can be really hard on your marriage. It can be really hard on you personally. It can be really hard on your relationship with Jesus. But I really just want to share this because I hope you know that yes, it's hard and it's a long process for some people. But throughout all of it, God is so good and he's so faithful and he's so loving and he's so evident and he's so present. And I just hope that you would keep your heart open to that and that you would keep your heart open to him throughout this process, because without him, man, throughout some of the stuff that I've gone through and me and my husband have gone through throughout trying, I don't know where I would be if I didn't have him. And I don't know where I would be if I wasn't trusting him and I wasn't seeking him, because truly I understand now that it's really difficult and it's not something to really joke about or to take lightly, because for some people it's really tough and it's really hard to get pregnant. It's really hard to carry a baby. For some people, pregnancy is really scary, and there's just so many different things that I didn't think about before I started trying to get pregnant, and my heart is so softened to women who are trying or who have been trying or who can't get pregnant. Man, my heart feels for the women who struggle, but I'm also, another thing is every time I see a baby or I see a pregnant woman, I'm in such awe of the Lord, because it is a true miracle and a true blessing. And whether or not it was easy or not, that baby is a blessing and a miracle. And it wasn't easy, and maybe it was easy, but either way, that baby is such a miracle and that baby is such a blessing. And so I just really hope that this story gives light to somebody who may be in a dark season, or who may be struggling with pregnancy, or maybe isn't struggling but is pregnant and is scared. I just really challenge you to seek the Lord and to trust him fully, and to trust his will and not our own, and to not let our flesh get in the way of whatever it may be, but to really trust him. And it's hard to fully trust him, because it's so natural for us to want to be in control. But when you give that control up, it's such a beautiful process, and there's just so much peace. And I have absolutely no fear about getting pregnant again. I have absolutely no fear about having another miscarriage. And man, if that were to happen, yeah, I have no fear about the Lord's plan still. Like, I still know he's good, and whatever it is that he has planned for Jake and I just know that he's so good and he's so faithful, and that just gives me so much peace, and my heart is so softened by him, and I just feel his love so deeply, because I know that he has good for me, and whatever that looks like, I just know his promise is good and that he won't break it. So I just really hope that this could help somebody. If it's one person, if it's not, I just hope that this could bring light to you in your situation. And I really hope that you will just look at the Lord and trust him, and that you would seek him wholeheartedly, and that you would just take time to sit at his feet and to spend quiet time with him and listen to what he's trying to tell you, or listen to the promise he's trying to show you or tell you, or whatever it is. I just really pray and hope that you would trust him, and know that if you are going through this, you can reach out to me and we can talk, because there's so much more to this, and there's so much pain and hurt that needs to be talked about. And I just hope, if anything, this gives someone an open door to talk to somebody, or to know you're not alone, and know that I will pray for you. And when I say that, I mean it. I don't just say it to say, oh, I'm going to pray for you, and not do it. When I say I'm going to pray for you, I will pray for you. And that's just something that I love doing. I love praying. And so if you need prayer, if you need somebody to talk to, please reach out to me. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me, because I'm here and you're not alone, and the Lord's right next to you, and I'm right next to you, and I'm fighting for you and with you, and so is the Lord. So I hope this helps. And I love y'all, and I know I don't know you, but I have such a heart for you if you're struggling through this and with this. So yeah, please reach out, and please don't hesitate to just reach out.